Hey guys, and welcome to another Vegan Bikini Prep Diaries. I'm so excited for today's video because it's going to be a Q&A, but on all things prep. So a prep Q&A. And I asked you guys to ask me some questions on my Instagram at FitVeganChef, and you guys asked so many good questions, so we're just gonna get right into it. How did you find your current coach? Have you always been with Paul? If so, what is it that made you find a new coach? You inspire me every day, and I hope I get to meet you someday. Thank you for all the great content, and thanks to George for being so supportive and creative with the videos. Thank you. And this is, let me try to pronounce, Dana. Thank you, Dana. So, no, I actually haven't been with Coach my whole bodybuilding career, but I started with Coach Paul very early in my bodybuilding career. The first year that I started competing, I did have a couple of coaches before him, but they were just not the perfect match for me, just like anything else, you're just gonna fit with certain people better than others. And, different coaches have different philosophies, different ways of approaching contest prep. And you just gotta find the person that is the right fit for you. And, that practices what they preach and that they also match what you want to do. And I feel like Coach Paul did that for me because I was very big into flexible dieting and my previous coaches were not. And I really felt that Paul knew what he was doing. I found myself often just binge watching all his videos and just learning. I learned so much from Paul than I ever had from anybody else. And I already felt like he was my coach before we even started working together. So I am so grateful for him because, like I said, it was just a good fit. So my biggest advice, if you're looking for a coach, don't go with somebody just because your favorite, fitness influencer is with that particular coach. You have to find the coach that's right for you. And you have to find the right coach that, will be a good fit. Because not necessarily everybody's just gonna match with everybody. And when we got in that first call, I remember he was kind of interviewing me to see if we were a good match, but I was also interviewing him to see if we were a good match. So so grateful to have him in my life. He has become one of my best friends, mentors, and I'm so excited because if everything goes back to normal this year, I'll get to see him again and we'll get to do some competitions and all of that. And it's really fun. And not only that, Team Pro Physique, which is his team and my team, they just become family. It's just such a big family environment. It's so cool. Obviously, I'm a little biased, so I'm going to say he's the best. But my biggest advice, find the person that matches you. Like I said, I was into flexible dieting and Paul was really big into it. So we were just a match made in heaven. How do you figure out your macros after you're done with prep so you don't gain fat but don't lose muscle? So it's super hard to lose muscle, and even Coach Paul tells me all the time, this, because sometimes even when I know that it's super hard, we always think that we're losing muscle somehow. But it is super hard to lose muscle, and you literally have to do absolutely nothing and be eating absolutely nothing in order to lose muscle. So as long as you're training hard and you're stimulating that muscle, you're not going to lose it. As long as you're eating enough, you're not going to lose it. And how do I figure out macros after I'm done with prep? So Coach Paul and I usually have a conversation after my season has ended, and we kind of talk about how aggressive or how not aggressive we want to make the post show. So if I am in the point that I'm hey Paul, I want to make this a very slow process, I want to gain as little body fat as possible, then let's do a really slow reverse. Or if I tell him, hey Paul, I'm ready to start training heavy, feeling good ASAP, then we might increase calories a little bit more rapidly. So it all depends on your goals, where your mindset is at the end of prep, and what you're going to be able to sustain. Because guess what? If prep is over and you can't adhere to your reverse diet, then you're probably not where you're supposed to be, So I have done it both ways, where I've done a very aggressive approach and a very slow approach after prep, but it all depends on the calories that you're currently at or at the end of prep at, and then you take it from there. But it's a conversation that you have to have with your coach. Your coach, a good coach, will have a post-show plan. They won't just let you be after show, because the prep doesn't end just because the show ended. You gotta continue. You gotta continue, because at the end of the day, this is a lifestyle, and you want to make sure that you can, you can sustain somewhat all the hard work that you did. It really just depends, again, on your specific goal. I don't want to tell you that one way is better than the other, because again, the best post-show plan is the one that you're going to be able to adhere to, and the one that's right for you. And it's going to look different from person to person. Have the preps become I can't say this. Have your preps become harder after years of competing? And I would say, that's a hard question. I think they were always hard. I think they're always going to be hard. I mean, if prep wasn't hard, I feel like everybody would do it, right? And honestly, I feel like yes and no, because as the years have gone by, I have learned from my mistakes and have improved over time. I've learned how to adapt, and I've learned that now I know what to expect. So things like going to the shows and things like that are not as intimidating as they once were. It's just like me going to the grocery store. So they're very normal to me now. I don't think they've gotten harder. I think they're always going to be hard. They're always going to be hard. I don't think they've gotten easier either. So yeah, I don't know how to answer that question. I feel kind of bad. All right, so how important it is to be absolutely exact with your macros and calorie intake while leaning out or in a building phase. Say you're supposed to eat 140 grams of protein, but you may eat a little bit more or a little bit less. Do you stress about eating the exact amount? Okay, this might be a little, controversial one. I don't think it is, because again, I do a flexible dieting approach. So if I find myself going over my protein, I will just take that same amount of calories or macros from my carbs. I'll borrow some macros over, and then I'll still be in a caloric deficit. You see what I mean? So yeah, I don't stress about it. I just kind of borrow my macros from another macronutrient. But again, it's different person to person. I wouldn't stress about it, because at the end of the day, you're looking at your overall calories. So yeah, if you do that, you're going to be fine. Tricks or swaps for high volume meals. Okay, this is one of my favorites. So if I am doing rice towards the end of my improvement season, I'm doing a lot of rice, but then my calories get slashed because I'm starting a contest prep, I will start adding cauliflower rice and taking a little bit of the rice, the actual rice, out of the equation, because cauliflower rice will be really high in bulk, and then you just add a little bit of the actual rice and you'll still get that feeling of eating a bowl of rice without the extra calories. So that's one of the good swaps. Another one is to add shredded lettuce to a lot of your meals. It will add a lot of volume. It'll fill you up, and shredded lettuce is just awesome. I love it. I have it all year round. And another one is do protein pudding instead of a protein shake. I find that if I just put a little bit of almond milk or soy milk on my protein powder versus turning it into a shake and I'm actually eating it, like a pudding, it takes longer, it's higher in volume, and I won't drink it. So I feel like when we chew our food, we kind of take time with it. So that's another great swap. Another one would be oatmeal. Oatmeal, I feel like it's a great way to have high volume because you can add a lot of liquid to it and make it as big as you want. And I actually do like half of oatmeal and half of cream of rice sometimes, and I feel like the cream of rice gets really starchy and the volume is a lot bigger. I'll do a lot of vegetables. Vegetables are very high volume, so I'll add a lot of vegetables to my meals. And whenever I have a high carb day, then that's when I add my rice or my potatoes and things like that. But speaking of potatoes, I don't know why potato hash is super high in volume. So I love making a potato hash with some peppers, some spinach, and then I throw some vegan sausage on the top or vegan crumbles. So good. And tofu. Tofu is another great high volume protein. So you can make tofu scramble and add a ton of veggies, and that's super high in volume and yummy. So those are just a few of my personal favorites, but there's so many other ones. What does your training routine look like to build all that muscle you have? I love the definition you have in your back and shoulders. So you guys are gonna hate me for this answer. I feel like I had my back and shoulders develop since I was like 16 years old. So I started surfing at the age of 15. I started competing in surfing around 18, 19. And yeah, I surfed for a long, long time. I'm 31 now, so I surfed a long time, and I still do. And before I ever got into bodybuilding, I was doing that and being very competitive with it, and I loved it. And I just had that really wide back that surfers and swimmers get from swimming and just being with an arch back all the time and paddling. So I feel like my back development did come from that, and part of it is definitely genetics as well. I'm Puerto Rican, and I feel like I had to develop. It was just a matter of putting a little bit of muscle mass on to like kind of like sculpt my body, but it was there. I'm gonna try to find some pictures here and put them in the screen for you guys to see. Way before I even decided to bodybuild, I had that back and those shoulders, so it's crazy to me to think, but yeah, it was always there. It's just that now I have a little bit of muscle mass, so it looks bigger. But in terms of answering your question, I feel like it's years and years of training. So it's gonna take time, guys. It's just gonna take time, and just make sure that you're progressing with your lifts. So say for example, I remember the first time I did a lat pull down, I was doing them like, I don't know, 50 pounds pulling, and over time I got better and better and better, and now I pull over 100. So it just takes time to build up to that, you know? So I like to do a lot of wide grip just to, again, make that illusion of a tiny waist. So I focus a lot on building the width and to create that illusion of an hourglass. So I do a lot of wide grip pull-ups, a lot of wide grip pull-downs, and I do a lot of rows to create that depth in the back. And I focus on the mind-muscle connection a lot. I not just focus on increasing weight over time, which is progressive overload, but I focus when I am like engaging my muscles and pulling. I am squeezing and I'm focused when I'm doing it. I'm really, really focused. And sometimes I don't, I try not to do them with speed or anything like that. I really like to take my time with it and take enough rest between sets in order for me to perform a perfect set. So those are my tips on building your back. What was the hardest area to build, and which was your hardest to lean out? Oh, okay. Definitely my glutes. My glutes are definitely the hardest to build and the hardest to lean out. As a Latina, I put all my fat on my booty. You guys see me when I'm like 20 pounds over stage weight and I still have abs, okay? Still have abs, still have everything, and still have defined shoulders, and it's because I just put all of my fat in my booty. So that is the hardest part to lean out. And it was also the hardest part for me to build because, believe it or not, my mind-muscle connection was not there years prior. It was a really hard area for me to focus and concentrate on, and I was just kind of like going through the motions and not really focusing on it, and I just didn't enjoy it. Like leg day and glute day was just like my least favorite day. But after I got done with like When I won my pro card in 2018, I was like, I need to make leg day and glute day my favorite day out of the week. I am going to really learn how to focus and how to really connect with those muscles, and my glutes have come a long way. And I've been hip thrusting very frequently. I make sure to be progressing, and if I'm not progressing in weight, I'll progress in my form. I'll improve my technique. So those are different ways to progress without actually adding weight. So yeah, it's just a matter of like going after what you want. So I focus on that, and I've been able to grow them. And now I really enjoy glute day. I really enjoy it. So much so that I do it every other day. What is the percentage of total calories that typically comes from fat? I would say anywhere from 20 to 30%, depending on how much calories I have. But we don't look at percentages. I look at the actual macro number. So anywhere from 40 to 60 grams. So it just depends on how much calories I have. Whether I'm in a building phase or a leaning out phase. Like for example, right now, since I am in contest prep, I am around 40 grams of fat at the moment, but I started at 50. And at the end of my improvement season, I was at 65. Once you have your macros, how do you go about planning your meals to hit them? Okay, this is another great question. So once I have my macros, I like to plan my meals. I kind of look at my overall day, and I make sure that each meal has a good amount of protein, fats, and carbs so I can have good, well-rounded, balanced meals. And I kind of split it evenly. I start off with my protein because I feel like I can like work around it the easiest. So if I'm having tofu for dinner, I'll add my tofu first. If I'm having seitan for lunch, I'll add the seitan first. And if I'm having a protein powder in for breakfast, I'll add that. Then I'll go with my carbs. Then I'll fill in with my veggies that are carbs as well, but they do contain a little bit of protein as well. So they'll kind of bump up that protein throughout the day. And fats, then I'll finish off with fats because I feel like fats can be good gap fillers there. And after I have my 3 main meals, I'll fill the middle 2 with snacks. So I'll do a small snack in between meals, and if I have any macros left after I finish doing all of that, I'll either have a post-dinner snack or treat, or I'll just add those extra macros to one of my bigger meals. Hope that made sense, but I'll probably can make like a more in-depth video on it, but basically I start off putting my proteins, my carbs, and my fats. How long are your cardio sessions when you're trying to lean out, and how long are your weight sessions? So right now my weight sessions are about an hour to an hour and a half. It just depends on what I'm training and how long it's taking me, how long are my rest periods. So it just depends. And my cardio sessions, well, at the beginning of this prep, they were 20 minutes and now they're 40 minutes. So it just really depends on where you're at. And guys, there's no specific numbers. Your body, is constantly adapting, and it's calories in versus calories out. So you got to think of it that way. So I'm more sedentary now because I am in lockdown. So we're in quarantine. So I'm not as active as I would be if I would be working outside. So I am more sedentary. So my cardio is looking a little higher than what it usually is. Usually is only 20 minutes because, well, at the beginning of prep, not usually. It was 20 minutes because I was active. I was moving, But now I'm not, so that's why it's a little higher now. And I'm sure it's going to increase the more I want to create even a bigger deficit through this prep. All right. Oh, this is a fun one. Is there any food or meal that no matter how low your macros go, you refuse to give up? I would say it's definitely, well, I have a few. And I wouldn't say they're meals. I would say no matter how low my macros get, I always have some type of oat dish or oatmeal. And if I don't have my oatmeal, I will have like waffles or French toast. But for the most part, my non-negotiable is oatmeal. I love it. It fills me up really nicely. It's delicious. And fruit is another big one. No matter how low my macros get, I always fit in some good blueberries or some type of berry because they tend to be lower in calorie, so it's easier to fit. Apples, kiwi, I try to use my carbs for those because I love fruit. And it's really big for me to like actually have my plan with foods that I enjoy, that I love, because that's what makes it fun and easy for me to stick to. Because if you're doing something that you don't enjoy, it's not going to be sustainable at all. So yeah, that is my non-negotiable. My second non-negotiable is dark chocolate. So I love to have a dark chocolate piece or like a little protein brownie or something like that as a nightcap or as a snack throughout the day. I love it. So I always try to incorporate some type of sweet, and that way mostly is chocolate. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this Q&A. I know it was a quick one, and I hope you enjoyed it. So if you did, make sure to give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're new here. I'm actually filming a full day of eating during my low day macros. That's going to be up next week. So stay tuned for that. And I'll see you on that one, guys. Bye!